every day, almost every day, I attend at least 2 conversations with HR heads, and they're asking me questions that how can we make these workplaces safe, inclusive. We want to do that, but we don't know how to do that. So today we're going to explore that with all the stalwarts here. I'm so happy and glad to be sitting here and introducing each one of you. So first and foremost, it is a well-known author.
Do surely like millions and millions of queer people happily employed and flourishing, and to push organizations like yours and others who mean well to convert the well-meaning into actions on the ground.
Thank you.
I am Anupama Ishwaran and go with the pronoun she, her. I run a diversity and inclusion consultancy, and the reason I do it is because I truly believe in it. I grew up in, every 2 years I shifted cities. So in my growing up years, I've actually experienced what exclusion means and what inclusion does to a person. And so I'm very deeply passionate about it. My journey with the LGBTQ community started in 2016, so at least a couple of years before the reading down of Section 377, and also 2 years after the NALSA judgment came about. And I'm a very strong and proud ally. I'm displaying it very proudly.
Wow.
Also,
You can see that. Thank you so much.
Namaskar, myself Maya Awasthi. I'm a co-founder and a co-CEO of Corporate Foundation. We run a shelter home and we work basically on with trans men, trans women, specifically transgender community across India. And we have a shelter home in Mumbai, Delhi, Living Center. One of the reasons for this panel is how to put gender more inclusive and get out of the binary thing. That's the reason this panel was very appealing for me. And frankly speaking, this year I'm not celebrating Pride for the only reason because last month I was in South Africa and I was in Uganda for the Uganda bill, and it was very sad that bill was being passed down by the president and been signed. And it's not about the Uganda; it's about the other countries also which are aligned, and it is by default that they are going to follow it, like Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Guyana, all those things they are going to take it. So this is another.
But yeah, I'm KelpHR. I'm a cis lesbian. My pronouns are she and her. So I'm a very courageous person, and I've not had problems speaking my truth, but still I've been in the closet for like a long time in my life, and I just didn't find the support that I needed. And I wrote a book about my experiences. It's called Homeless Growing Up Lesbian and Dyslexic in India. It's published in March by Simon & Schuster and Europress. And right now I work in a company called Salesforce. It's a tech company, and there I lead their APAC operations for their LGBTQIA called Outforce.
Thank you so much. So, which first question for you? Whenever I get calls, they say, how do we do? Where do we start? Okay, so as an organization, we have always known binary genders, we've always known he, she. That's it. What more? How do we tell people that we are inclusive?
So I think before telling people, we should do the work. That's number one. Number two, I know it's KelpHR, but I don't think HR should be the place where we start, because most people think inclusion is an HR thing. It's not. HR is one component of the entire ecosystem of inclusion. So if any of you are with organizations and you think it's an HR issue or an inclusion person is the overworked, there's always one token person in HR, woman, lesbian, queer, one person on each chair. You also do DEI. No, that's a bad place to start. Yeah? It should be a leadership mandate. The senior leaders need to understand that the benefits of inclusion in product, in talent, in supporting NGOs through CSR, in the communication that they put out. So, it should be a comprehensive thing that the entire organization and leaders have to understand why it is in their advantage to be inclusive across all dimensions of business. And B, to walk the talk means allocating budgets towards it from your senior leaders, giving the inclusion activities, not an overworked, overburdened team. One person for whom it's an extra thing, and maybe 5 lakhs to do things during Women's Day and Pride Month, lol and ugh. But it means if you're actually committed, then you will say this matters to me the same way as sales matters to me, the same way finance matters to me, the same way this. So having budgets in 3 to 5 year cycles, many years in advance, having large teams, having a DEI strategy, tying the compensation of your senior leaders to the outcomes of that, and then to talk about it. So it's comprehensive. It's a deep commitment, and for all the people whom you are serving, which is your queer, PWD, Dalit, Bahujan, Adivasi, Muslim, regional, whichever dimension, and these all are not exclusive boxes; they are connecting and intersecting boxes. All these people whom you are serving will see that authenticity when it is long term and comprehensive versus being a short term performative.
Thank you, Parmesh,
So, yeah.
for that. And I hear you very loud
Yeah.
and clear that get started and
Yeah.
before talking outside, first start doing work from internally or
Yeah.
start doing work much ahead of time,
Yeah.
have budgets. But what happens is generally there is only one person who's running with the agenda. There's one person who really believes in it. And I feel we cannot shoot them down or we cannot, I think as community we should help them. There are times when they come to us and say, my leadership team is not in for it or they don't understand it. Okay, so Anupma, any thoughts from your perspective that how can we upskill them or how can we give them arms and ammunition, for a lack of good word, but how can we make them stronger so they can present the thought process to their leadership?
So I think one point that I want to just re-emphasize, which Parmesh said, is that you have to have your senior leaders buy into it and sponsor this very clearly. One person who's few levels down the rung and is very passionate about this will find it very difficult because I've heard this many times. We can do PWD, we can do this, it's like boxes of certain categories that are acceptable by society, and this one side they are not comfortable with, without seeing the intersectionality, without realizing that when you have thousands of people in your organization, you don't need to hire. There are people already in the system who are powerful in the thousand. See, a person like that who may come to us, we can support with, lot of, we normally say that you can start by doing and discuss some short kind of activities to expose so that you start building a group of allies to come, there's an army you're building and then you can put it across to your senior leaders. But your senior leaders have to, because the budgets are coming from them, and it's not just the budgets, it's then only that you will see that things move beyond June.
Absolutely.
Right? Like it's a whole year long.
Absolutely. Actually, I had this conversation just yesterday with somebody, and they were saying that it's June month, a lot of noise about it. July month, back to. So, is there any idea from you, Vaishali, if I have to ask you, any ideas from you coming in after June month? What is it that can be done so that this is a sustained activity and doesn't get given up?
I mean, June is when all the logos become very low and people think they checked the checkbox, made their LGBT stance known, and that's all they need to do. But of course not. They need to do a lot. I think from infrastructural changes like having a gender neutral washroom. It's as important as having a wheelchair accessible office, right? Because that's as important as access for a person with disabilities. And also, it's, I think, I think Parmesh also mentioned this, it's three things. It's your employees, it's your product. And many people forget that. It's like, how inclusive are your products? So Salesforce, for example, they've added pronouns in all their products. Wherever anyone's name is mentioned, their pronouns are mentioned. So are there people doing stuff like that? And then it's the community. Like, we see logos here, they're supporting this. Can companies do that? They can support the existing initiatives in the community, in their communities that they're in. Like my company, actually blocked an anti-gay bill in Indiana a few years ago, and they actually threatened to like get their offices out of the state of Indiana in the US. They were going to pass an anti-gay bill, and our CEO, he came out and he said, this is not acceptable, and he threatened to like take the company's employees out of that state, close down the office that we had there, and he also paid the lawyers to fight that bill. So that's the kind of investment that have companies put into the safety of the employees and for the community.
Okay, that's really nice, Vaishnavi. Thank you very much for that. And those are I think baby steps that will go a long way for us to create a safe workplace. And I always say that just start small. Like any fight, it will take time. Maybe a baby step will help. Maya, I'm a very interested person. You have said before that dialogues have to be two-sided.
Yeah.
And people from the community can share more about themselves to make them comfortable. In a workplace, how can a person from the community start such conversation? And how does one create a safe space to encourage these conversations?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. But then before that, I take the
Sure.
same
Yes,
question
please.
because that's not something very hurting to me. Like we are not a season that only you remember in one period of time and then you forget us and you wait that next season kab aayega. It's like we are not there. We are your day in day out. We are the human beings. You are dealing with a life. When you're dealing with a life, you give importance to the other DI concept or the blocks. I always call them blocks. But then what about we are being ignored? As Parmesh said, like we have to talk every day. We have to talk within the team. We have to talk about it. For example, like every month or a week you have a meeting. That's by default. Every day you have to punch in your attendance. The same way we have to do it, and then only the pride or the allyship will grow within the organization organically. And then you don't have to wait for June kab aayega. You will start planning in July what we are doing in next June. So this is what it have to develop organically within the organization. Now coming to my main question, supplement question.
Thank you for adding that because it's important.
So the base of any communication is a two-way communication. A one-way communication can't be a communication. It's like in the order. It's a Hitler order. It's not a communication. Of course, as a committee member, I think it needs to be a two-way communication because I am demanding my space, not space that you want me to be there. Because when I joined as an employee to any organization, you may give me my joining letter with all do's and don'ts. But how comfortable I am with those do's and don'ts? What is my say on the do's and don'ts? For example, as mentioned, about a washroom. I'm not comfortable with this to go to a men's room, and it's more horror in going to a women's room because I've been scanned every second by a woman. Like, are you a real woman or what are you? I would say, I had faced the question of how do you pee, like standing or sitting. And I'm sorry, I'm being blunt on it. So, and this is the way we have seen things happening in the corporate. It is my comfort zone has been questioned, and at the time of induction, there should be a space given, or during time of interview or finalization of interview, you should have to give a time space for a candidate to talk about his or her comfort zone to give the best of his or her to the organization. At last, the profit of the organization is not because of the VPs and HR and your CEO. It is because of those people who work at the very base level. If they are not able to do the work properly, even your sales manager can't help out. He will be under pressure. Okay. So for me, it's more important to give importance to the grassroots person to understand how to do it. It's also about my comfort at the time of gate entry, because that watchman or the gatekeeper, he himself is questioning me. In spite of when my induction has been done. I've been repeatedly going to office every day, but every time he will say, "Sir, madam, kidhar ja rahe? Kaun hai aap?" Something like that. And lastly, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
No,
And lastly,
I have
I'll give a
extra question.
बोला नहीं था. So my only thing is I can give one of the example. Parmesh Anupama, everyone will agree to that example. Like one of the best employment drive for transgender was done by Tata Steel last year, and they came with a very thoughtful and Anupama and Trade Foundation and Anupama in Hamli, we were involved in the entire process of recruitment, and we came with a concept. सेशन नहीं करना है, हमें वर्किंग स्पेस बनाना है. So what we did, we did 3 level of sensation program, one with a senior, one with a junior, and lastly we did both the people come, let the trans people come, sit at one side of the corner of the table, and the organization people come sit in the other corner. Now you talk about each other, and that's a two-way communication. And trust me, today that is 90% retention rate they are doing it. And this is what I give the example is the two-way communication. This is the best. मैंने उनको बोल दिया था, हमने उनको बोला था कि सोचो मत सही है गलत है, कितना भद्दा सवाल है, क्या है, कितना सेंसर्ड अनसेंसर्ड है, जो मन में आते बोलो. बिकॉज आज आपको लगेगा कि मैं नहीं पूछूं, पर आप आगे जाके थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम होएगा. बिकॉज यू आर गोइंग टू बी इन द वर्क प्लेस, हम लोग तो निकल जाएंगे. तो they have spoken about their from their heart. I mean, people have spoken about अगर मैं नाइट शिफ्ट करूंगी और फिर मुझे ऐसा तो नहीं होगा ना कि अनसेफ फील होगा, बिकॉज मेरा एक टैग लगा हुआ है, मैं एक ट्रांस हूँ, और ट्रांस का फॉर्मल जॉब जो था वो ये था, उसको लेके मुझे ऐसे टैगिंग तो ना लगे. एंड आई वाज लाइक we will not answer, let the people who want to answer work, let them answer. And that's what the वो शर्म लिहाज से हटानी पड़ती है पर्दा जब हम ऊपर डिस्कशन करते हैं. And I always say that please be free whatever you will talk, and let the communication don't come from the mind, let it come from the heart, so that when you speak from the heart you speak the real thing and right thing and with the emotions. Sorry, I give a response.
No, it is very important. What I wanted to ask you, and it's a real issue about two-way communication, that how comfortable can a trans person in the organization be to share about their self and sexuality? There are times when they discuss, and there are times when a cis person is having a conversation, they're having a rapport building. There has been an instance when there is a sexual harassment reported, because I run a company on sexual harassment as well. Sexual harassment reported. So how should we be managing those sensitivities in such conversations? I don't know if it's okay if you want to discuss.
We will. मैंने बोला patient पूरे लास्ट लेटर सब साइड में रख के बात करते हैं.
No problem.
Because
it's a very
human thing. It's a very human thing, a very personal thing. Thing is what when we talk about it, we have to put things within the non-community or cis people very clear and out. Most of us have been to, you are the pioneer in doing this sensation program, corporate dealing and all. When we do, we always say, only send. Question वही ले आएंगे जो हमें ठीक लगेंगे, nothing personal about. Same way when you do with your employees, these people, you have to allyship is the best policy, but then you have to know where are the limits on the allyship. I mean, allyship doesn't mean that you have to check with me and say what is my sexual preference. You want to go with my date? What do you prefer? Only I have heard questions like how do you perform sex? So I mean, that's my way. If you want to come and check out, so that's what I do.
no, in fact, I've been asked that how do you do it?
तो मैं तो क्या बोलते चला जा.
I'm like,
No.
I mean, I'm like, how does it matter to you?
Sometimes you have to give back. And this world is like you have to give back. You can't be Sita type or very पर्दे में type people, because people have lost their sense of asking questions.
Absolutely.
And that is what. And here is what we have to draw a line. During even sensation program, we have to say that we are having people who are from the sexual minority or the gender minority, or from this can be also especially people also. So you have to be very sensitive about there are limits where you have to stop.
Absolutely.
Until unless you are very जेल विद इट फ्रेंडली तुम्हारा रिलेशनशिप चालू हो गया वो अलग बात है but then initial
You
level
have
पे
a
नहीं
camaraderie, you have to know your
initial level पे
boundaries.
नहीं initial level पे बिल्कुल नहीं in fact you will have more turnover ratio your agenda of D&I your agenda of inclusivity will never be gained or whatever how many permissionable we are you have a 3 months plan 3 years plan investment plan and everything with every 3 years this 3 years plan will go on a waste with that such stupid cracks are there.
Yeah, absolutely. So beautifully covered. We tried to coin a term called curiosity harassment and say that be away from all these conversations. I mean, how does it matter to you? Imagine, I mean, they have asked me this question. It doesn't matter to you. You are a cis person. You should know what you have to do. What others do is not your problem. This is not a conversation to even have, right? So coming back, and it's a very general conversation.
I just want to add one more point, which you mentioned, Maya mentioned the gender neutral washroom. That I remember going to an organization and I asked, "There's a washroom." So they said it's somewhere there. So I started walking and I actually walked towards the gender neutral washroom. And like two people came and नहीं वो नहीं है आपके लिए वो है. And they just missed the point that it's gender neutral. I can go. It's not meant for one category. So when you create gender neutral washrooms, remember it's for everybody.
Yeah.
And the minute you say no, it's not, it's only for non-binary or a trans person, then again you're creating exclusion. Then
Yeah, I prefer the term all gender washroom. I mean, that's better
yeah, I think it's
in
easier
terms
to
of
understand.
nomenclature.
Yeah.
Because also it's not neutral is to me. I mean, again, there's lots of debate on this. But
Nice one.
we want to nothing is neutral for everyone. The gender is what matters. So when all gender is more inclusive as a term.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
In fact, on the washroom, a lot of these buildings are created and cannot be changed.
Yes.
So it is made.
So all gender accessible washroom is an easy hack in general. But yeah.
So Smita, I'm sorry for this point. I always say
Don't be sorry.
I always say to the
Be
organization.
sorry.
So I always say the organization 50,000-60,000 रुपए खर्च करने के नया वॉशरूम की जरूरत ही नहीं है. No. 200 रुपए का एक लगा दो बस हो गया. You are saving on the investment. You are saving on everything. People, your manager, your CEO, MD will always like the thing. इतना पैसा बचाए तो उधर काम आएगा. So this is the way I always only put individuals have to understand. घर पे we don't say मम्मी का ये washroom ready करो है and we have to keep our own undergarments and everything commonly in the washroom. Like there is no shy and all. Then why in the office?
I just want to add what Anupama said. I get questioned when I go to the women's room. They're like, your hair, and then they look at this side and they're like, okay, this is you to go to the women's room. So I prefer using the all gender washroom, so I don't get questioned because I was assigned female at birth and I am a cisgender person, but even for us sometimes our gender comes into question because of the way we choose to represent it. So,
Everything based on the expressions. How do you present yourself?
Absolutely. So this is a general conversation, and any inputs on creating PRGs or DEI council? Do you think it works well? Do you think that should be a starting point?
Actually, before that, I just want to follow up what Maya said in your question to Maya. And in terms of the framing this, I agree that it should be two-way, but often structures are very hard for an honest two-way. Always the organization has so much more power. So to expect the minority to have the confidence to do two-way, to me is very unfair. So I think while we want two-way, the onus should be on the organization to do the facility. So your thing, you said, what should queer people do to create that? I don't think queer people, we are very overburdened being queer, dealing with society, dealing with watch people, dealing with all of this. Then on top of that, to think about what we should do to that is too much work for us. So I think it will be a fair two-way conversation when the organization takes more steps to create that. So in terms of whatever, it should be 80-20 two-way. 50-50 is very hard because we may not have the confidence. We may be, queer people, even when they are being hired not in senior levels of whatever. They are entry level. So how to do two-way when all the leaders are like one particular kind of person and whatever, right? So the 80% onus should be on the organization, and then queer people we can step up. But if the organization is not willing or honest or authentic, why should queer people step up? We will join other places. So I think the onus is it should be organization and structural. Then we can step up. So yeah.
I would agree, and just to correct also with since Maya quoted the Tata Steel thing, is that this happened after multiple levels of conversations with senior leaders, sensitizing, not just senior leaders, different levels.
Downwards, yeah.
It went top to right till the security, to the housekeeping staff, to the cafeteria staff. Everybody went through intense sensitization, and then this initiate, and that too after we had done a program with the candidates and built a certain level of confidence for them to have that conversation. But the owners, like Kavish says, I completely agree. I think the cisgender people, heterosexual people are the majority. It is for us actually to be more sensitized, and we need to be more proactive and make it a safe place. Expecting anybody, and I'm sure all of us at some point, especially I think all of us who identify as women also, here also, but I'm just saying from my point,
the same burden.
you're a minority, how difficult it has been for us to even raise our voice.
Absolutely.
Right? So we have to, it's our responsibility. That's the role that allies play.
Yeah.
Right? If senior leaders are not taking, some level is not taking it as allies, I think we have to just keep, be persistent in making sure the environment is conducive for such conversations.
Great insight. Coming back to my question, that how do we create DEI councils, ERGs, any inputs, because you're from an organization which I'm sure runs these councils.
Yeah. So in my previous company, like I tried to form an ERG, so I have like that perspective as well. And this was before Section 377 was read down, so there was a lot of hesitance from their side that this is not legal. Can we do this? And I don't want to make the organization, but
Every other organization, but
yeah, pretty much. So it's like, even if you have passionate people who want to do this work, you need the organization to partner. That's the most important thing that will guarantee the success of such an organization. They have to partner, they have to give you the leadership, like time with the leadership to, advance whatever policies we want from the ERG. We also need money. That's very important. It has to be a financial investment in the betterment of that group. And also, we want access to the employees. We can't just do this in a closed room, figure out everything, and we don't tell anyone anything. Nobody's going to it's not going to be a safe space. So unless there is that, ERG is pretty pointless. It's just tokenism.
Yeah.
You're just doing it for the sake, okay, June aa gaya, let's do an event. That's not something that's good. And you also, on the other hand, the organizations really let's assume they're really they want to do a lot. You also need people who are passionate from the community in these ERGs for them to actually take the dialogue forward, understand the pulse of the LGBTQ employees and also advocate for that. So it's both ways. Yeah.
You reminded me of an interesting conversation I was having with this HR head. He's saying that we don't have a single, and there are 3,000 employees, we don't have a single person who has come up and say, and I'm like, just say that again to yourself and say it out loud, right? So
I had that happen to me, and I said, how many women do you have? And out of 100 employees, there are 12 women. I'm like, it doesn't look like a place that's a very diverse space. You do a lot more to hire more women first, and then with that, when people see that there is diversity, they will feel more comfortable. So yeah.
And I also think out of 3,000 people, have you created enough safe space for them to come out and say it's not? So when I asked him that question, he said, we did these conversations, and one or two people have had conversations with me, but they are not talking in open. So, Parmesh, coming back to you, that there are people who have spoken to this DEI head, but they don't want to come out in open because they have not come out to their families. So what should be, how should we create a safe space for them within the organization? Then they can
So I don't think we should create a safe space. So I don't think the aim of an organization should be to help people come out. Again, I get this a lot as a kind of, I want more out people. I'm like, you will get, and it's like going shopping. Nah? I want Alfonso mangoes. Let's have 2 trans people here also now. 1 on a wheelchair would be nice. It's like, I get requests like that also. I want to look like this.
Perfect picture.
But like when the rest of the organization happens, like at the right moment, right? So I don't think the organization should aim. I think what the organization should do is recognize that 6 to 10% of any population LGBTQ. So if we have 3,000 people already, and this is 100 years of data from all across the world, which says that at least 180 to 300 queer people are there in your organization already. Now, what you have to do is, you cannot force them, I think you're gay, come out, I think you're gay, come out, whatever. You can create an infrastructure and ecosystem for them to, if they so choose, be confident enough to share that with the world. But if they don't choose, they should be able to take the benefits. This is what we did at Godrej for so many years. In my own building, there were 30 people who were claiming same-sex partnership benefits, who were transitioning, who were on hormones, whatever. But of those 3 people were out with their managers. The other 27 said, we are scared we will lose our promotion. We are scared. But so HR knew, the partner was insured, but the senior manager did not know. I mean, is it ideal? No. But you have to look at what the employee wants. No. And I can't tell that person, no, come out. So what? For that person, the promotion is more important because the promotion is linked to livelihood, whatever. As an organizer, so then my boss would say, why we don't have more people? I said, but that shouldn't be our funda. Our funda should not be, I want more out people so that I can show them in a campaign during Pride Month, get LinkedIn likes, and enter myself for a great place to work. I mean, that is not why I'm doing this. Is anyone else here saying, oops, but this is what my organization is doing? I hope this is on video. I hope someone's recording it. You, all you HR managers, I'm looking at you. Right? Our aim is to create infrastructure and an ecosystem for everyone to thrive. Our aim is to recognize that we live in an inequitable world in which some people have been denied opportunities for years. So our aim is to make it equitable, which means active hiring, which means positive discrimination, which means all these things. And our aim is to make it an incredible environment so if people choose to share, they will organically share. And for organizations who want to do this, if you invest in the policies, systems, infrastructure, product, communication, everything, over years you will realize that you don't have to ask this question. More and more talented people will be drawn to you in any case.
Brilliant.
So,
I think
yeah.
you have concluded my conversation brilliantly. Now I think we will take a last statement from
People have hands
each
up
one.
already.
One concluding statements from each one of you.
I want to concluding, I've spoken enough.
Are you concluding for us?
Oh, I
I think you asked about the DI thing. I just want to quote an example of Parvesh. I think when you set up and the culture lab and everything, you left a legacy and a succession plan, I must say,
Yeah.
because it continues.
Yeah.
So when an organization wants to set up an ERG or they want to do a DI council, it can't be because of one person. It needs to be such a deep-rooted plan that it continues for years and years. And it's not just because one person was there in this organization got a great place to work award or whatever it is and they did their thing. It's not that. You're not talking about a Mughal Raj coming and going when somebody else coming. It has to be a part of the ethos and culture of that particular organization, and the intent has to be very, very strong. That's what I would like to intend. And be very genuine, not the tick mark. And there are enough events which can be done, like I can say, throughout the year. There's lots that can be done.
Thank you so much.
For me, I would say ERG, DI councils are the graduation level degrees.
Yeah.
It's not the initial level of what we. Let's start with a baby step, complete a baby step, and then go for it. Most of the thing is only done, and that is my experience. You guys work more with the corporate, so you will be going with. But if you see, ERG and DI council is between only May and July. There are major of them coming out. They will not think beyond that. No, even forming a ERG or a DI council, will only happen during May and July के बीच में. There's nothing like उसके बाद कोई सोचता नहीं है. उसके May से पहले सोचेगा नहीं. It's like that. One thing is that. Second thing is, I want to quote one of the organizations who have invited me for a talk. They are a MNC French organization. They are DI council rating, good place to work. Play gold, platinum ranking. So they are the platinum ranking. And I was misgender and harassed for my ID card by the organization.
Wow.
In spite of me being an invitee, be a part of the panel. I'm going to take a session. तो सोचो वहाँ पे बाकी स्टाफ को कैसा होता है एंड कितना वो सोचते होंगे कि मैं बाहर आके अपने बारे में बताऊं. There is a fear. Yeah. So that's the only thing, like, for me, the recruiting market, like, check your previous step. How well have you done it? Then you move for the further step. Yeah. And then you look for ERG and DI council and all. Because as a first of all, this ERG and DI council is not a brainchild of the committee member or HR का भी mark है. मेरा I'm an MNC, मेरा US कंपनी में होता है ना ब्रांच में, तो मेरे को इधर भी चाहिए. तो कौन है तुम आ जाओ, तुम गे लगते हो तुम आ जाओ, तुम बाइसेक्सुअल लगते हो तुम आ जाओ, तुम करो यहाँ पे आके. तो ऐसा नहीं होता है. I know right now. Today is the 9th. There are few people who know to me. They are talking to their organization and they are forming ERG because उनको May के end में मालूम पड़ा तो ERG बनाना.
And by the end of Pride month, they have to do one event.
No, they have to give a plan and conduct करना है. And every day I get a call. मेरा plan reject हो गया. तू बता और क्या करना है? What to put it?
I get this.
So this is why, like,
I get this.
I don't believe this ERG and we all individual are ERG in our own self.
Just reminded me, yesterday I wrote a very strong, and my team knows it, about the same thing. And I was so upset that the person says that you're losing a business. I don't care.
Yeah. Go to
I said,
someone.
go away. I mean, if you're not ready to get a panel and pay that person just because they're speaking about the community.
Was it a gigantic media company in the world? Because they met me, I gave them one very nasty. Was it one of the biggest media companies in the world with billions of dollars? You can Google them. There's like 2 or 3 gigantic media companies in the world who said, can you do this pro bono?
Yeah.
No, I can't mention that. I'm sorry, but no. But we said very clearly that sorry, this is not fair.
So we need more people to actually say no. He also says so many times if the work conditions are not good, they want to do one program covering 1,000 employees. Sorry, we will not do it.
Or they want to
Doesn't
say,
matter.
but we are giving you visibility.
Yeah. For you, yes.
Thanks. I need you to give you visibility.
I just want to say that HR people here and generally hiring a queer person is not the last step. That's the first step, because people in the queer community are more likely to be suffering from anxiety disorders, from depression. I've been talking to a lot of queer people as part of my podcast, Various Connections. Our producer is here, Sonal. So we've discovered that a lot of queer people also suffer from imposter syndrome, and it's very normal because you would feel like an imposter if you can't see yourself represented at all. Like, I feel that in so many levels, as a woman, as a dyslexic person, as a queer person. So we are struggling. Just hiring us and like dropping us into your organization is not going to like help us thrive or even help us survive. To do a lot of it.
Thank you very much. I think esteemed panel. I really enjoyed the conversation. I have picked your brains for making me richer, because these conversations really help us to think in a perspective that is coming from each one of you. I think organizations will also benefit. The people who are sitting on the fence will be able to understand your perspective. Okay, so thank you very, very much, and I hope we continue these conversations.
Thank you so much. My first question was to Maya. I think you mentioned this twice about how guards and all are not sensitized enough. I think organizations don't actually go about sensitizing, let's say, the guards, the peons, the other staff that work on DNI, and also about, in general, people. So how do you deal with, how do
So,
we deal with that?
when I talk to the corporate, I always say that don't let me know whom you get, who are outsourced stuff. They need to be taken on the first priority, not the senior management, because outsourced staff are the people who will be dealing with people like me day in day out. MD or even my manager will deal me once in a week. But दिन में 4 बार तो मुझे housekeeping को मिलना है, pantry को मिलना है, watchman को मिलना है. So that is the way I always say, do the sensitization from bottom to top, not to top to bottom. That's the.
Now, when you say the first people, right? They're
Yeah.
the first person you interact with when you walk into an office, and then you go on and interact with many more.
Can I just add to that most organizations treat their outsourced staff the worst? So we should not be blaming our guards and our security teams because they are outsourced to save the organization liabilities. No security team is on the payroll of any organization. It's outsourced to a Sodexo or whatever, and that is done so that the organization doesn't have to deal with insurance, all this nonsense. And so I think a good way to see if an organization being inclusive is how does that organization treat its outsourced labor? Are the guards given chairs? Are the guards given enough breaks? Before the guards are sensitized, are the guards treated like incredible, resources that they are? And if there is a dichotomy and saying we want to be LGBTQ friendly, but we are treating our service staff like shit, what kind of an organization are you?
Technically, they are also employees of the organization. They may be outsourced employees, but they are employees.
But they're never made to feel that. They're never trained. They're never given the training, the lessons, the skills to upskill and do other things. So there's a lot of work to be done. But what Maya is saying is tell them to invest in that training for the support staff.
I think also to check with the agencies, do they do any kind of sensitization? Because we've had this problem where there are companies like this which supply stuff, but they are not sensitized. So they get one team, and this is these third-party agencies. There's a lot of attrition there. So if you sensitize one group, the change is there. Somebody new is coming, and we've had so many companies, and they want to hire again. Tokenism. We want trans people, and we want 2-3 trans people to work in this organization. But first, you're not sensitized, which is why you're continuously having problems. So now we said, no, we're not going to support you.
Even something as simple as, let's say, sales staff in a store. When you walk into most stores, they're not sensitized. They're also employees of the organization. But if you
Not
walk,
necessarily, we don't.
some may be outsourced,
Yeah.
some of them would be,
Yeah.
let's say, if they're very big brands and they might have them on rules, some would be off the rules, but they typically will pass night comments, basic sensitization, forget anything else is not there. So that also needs
A lot of
to be
work to do.
But insisting that your vendors, whether it's a Sodexo or whoever equivalent, insisting that they are trained and they invest and insisting that or you can pay for their training would be a very good step. So that every time someone walks in, and it can, of course, or because the pay is so low, Sodexo is giving you 12,000, someone is 14, you will jump or whatever. That is the level of pay. So, but by insisting, it becomes part of mandatory security guard training for wherever they go. If you can include this and that, then you will not have these situations. Then you as an organizer can mandate it. You can say, we're giving you a contract of 500 people. Part of it should be this. Bill us a little bit more for it. That shows intent, a long-term commitment to structural change, whatever.
Then we can always get into actually tracking whether it's happening or not, because you can make whatever moves you want at the top, but ultimately whether it's percolating.
You can
down.
insist because you as a corporate have the power, you have the bargaining power, you have the agents. You say, I want this to happen, otherwise I'm going to some other vendor. It's the same for insurance. Now all insurers give. All insurers give because everyone knows. You say, I will give you. So it's like that.
I think we can do that. In fact, in our agency letters, whichever we exchange, we ensure that sensitization, at least for WASH, we are mandating. So we could include sensitization.
You must.
The reason I'm doing force mandate because it's a mandate from the law.
But even
We
then
are not
they
even
don't-
seen in the law.
Yeah.
We are still a criminal after being decriminalized.
And I don't like linking it only because posh is fear-based and crime-based. Whereas inclusion is not just about harassment. It's inclusion, not just don't harass us. Inclusion is much more. So posh is a mandate that you have to do, but inclusion is a commitment. So
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for
thank you.
beautiful time. Thank you for
Thank you.
Can we have the hamburger, please?
Oh my god.
Thank you so much, Anna, for your presence. Yes, of course. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Can I have one, please? Can I have one, please?
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, Maya. Thank you so much.
So the Kashish logo for the photo.
Can I have a picture, please? Of course, we can have a picture.
Who will take?
Oh, yes.
Can someone take in landscape mode and send it?
Landscape is very good.
No, it says reload it or send it. If we can split it to a square, then we'll send. And now give us vertical also for the story.
Social media is important.